Ahmed Dobson, the Islam of the son of the former British health minister. The September 11, 2001 attacks in the United States, U.S., have indirectly changed the face of Islam and Muslims throughout the world. England is no exception. A number of mosque administrators in London acknowledge that there has been an increasing tendency among British society to study Islam since the incident. In an article entitled "The New Face of Islam," published on the Islam for Today page, the author, Nick Compton, stated that such a trend is not new in England. He stated that a number of blue-blooded British citizens, aristocrats, even decided to become Muslims. One of those mentioned in the article was Ahmed Dobson, son of former British health minister Frank Dobson. Although born and raised in a devout Christian family, teenage Joe chose to become an agnostic. The teachings of Islam were only known to this man, born in 1975, from one of his friends. At that time, he was only 16 years old. "A friend gave me an English translation of the Quran," said Dobson, as quoted by Telegraph.co.uk. In Joe Dobson's view, Islam is a religion that is identical with all negative things. However, after studying the translated Quran given by his friend, Joe's perspective on Islam slowly began to change. According to him, by reading the Quran, he felt like he had received a revelation. "The contents have changed my perception of Islam. It turns out that in Islam, both men and women are required to seek knowledge as high as possible. The Quran also teaches us to treat everyone with respect. The Quran is very true," he explained. In addition, he said, the Quran provides answers to all questions that cannot be given by any other books. Islam can answer the question, why? Why should we treat everyone as a brother and every woman as an older sister? Why should we try to do the best for ourselves and our fellow human beings? That's what the Quran did for me, and it gave me the answer to why I should live this way. Islam, ed, he explained. Indonesian Muslims. A trip to Indonesia in 1992 left a special impression on Joe Dobson. He witnessed firsthand how the lives of Muslims in Indonesia were. His experience of interacting directly with Muslims in Indonesia made him even more impressed with the Islamic religion. Returning from his visit to Indonesia, Joe Dobson admitted that he began to be interested in studying Islam more deeply. Luckily, when he was studying at the University of Manchester, he had many Muslim friends. Therefore, he could ask a lot of questions about Islam. Likewise, books and literature about Islam were widely available in his campus library. It was only in early 1998, with full confidence, that he decided to become a Muslim. Taking place in a mosque in the north of London, Joe Dobson recited the Shahada in front of the mosque congregation. The incident occurred in January 1998. The biggest challenge he faced after deciding to convert to Islam was his family, especially his father. His decision to become a Muslim was made when Frank Dobson was serving as the British Minister of Health. To avoid negative reactions from the British public towards his father, he finally decided not to tell anyone about his conversion to Islam. At that time, I really didn't want to say that I was a Muslim until I felt sure I could live that way, said the holder of a master's degree in general management and social policy from London Metropolitan University. But gradually, his family also found out about his Islam. Among British Muslims, Ahmed Dobson is quite vocal in voicing the interests of Islam. When U.S. troops and their allies invaded Afghanistan, he issued harsh criticism. Likewise, his criticism of Western capitalism. According to him, Western capitalism and what is happening in Afghanistan comes from socialist principles. It is not from an extreme Muslim view, but is a socialist principle developed by the West, he said. In addition to being vocal, he is also known to be active in several Muslim organizations based in London. Among others, he has served as chairman of the Muslim Council of Britain's Regeneration Committee and interim director of London Muslim Care. Outside of his activities as a Muslim organization administrator, He is also actively involved in several anti-drug campaigns initiated by the British Muslim community. Joe Dobson does not only voice Islam, he is also often seen with peace activists to campaign for world peace. In his view, all nations and religions must actively work together for peace. Basically, the majority of Muslims and people of all religions hold a belief that is based on the values of compassion, peace, and justice. He said. Joe Frank, British royal nobleman who converted to Islam because of Indonesian women. Joe Frank Dobson, a British aristocrat, created a stir in the public when he decided to convert to Islam. What was the basis for his decision to convert to Islam? According to information quoted from a broadcast on the YouTube channel Children's Village of former British Health Minister Frank Dobson, Joe Frank Dobson was first introduced to Islam by an Indonesian citizen. This is a brief overview of Joe Frank Dobson's decision. Guidance is a gift from Allah and can be received by anyone according to his will. Several royals from the British royal family have also had similar experiences, including Joe Frank Dobson, who is the son of Frank Dobson, a royal who once served as the British Minister of Health. Joe admitted that his introduction to Islam began when he received a Quran from a woman from Indonesia. A friend gave me an English translation of the Quran, the contents of which changed my perception of Islam. It turns out that the Quran teaches us to treat everyone with respect, he said. Since he was a teenager, Joe, who was born in 1975, has been concerned with social justice for minorities and the weak. And it turned out that the Quran he received from his friend had many verses about humanitarian values and social justice. The Quran states that whoever kills a human being will be considered to have killed all of humanity, Joe said. According to him, the verses of the Quran that shook his heart have given him a lot of wisdom, and it made him know the values of compassion about justice and humanity. Islam can answer the question of why we should treat every man as a brother and every woman as an elder sister, why we should try to do the best for ourselves and our fellow human beings. That's what the Quran did for me, he said, and that gave me the answer about why I have to live this way, he continued. But his change of faith did not go smoothly. Joe Frank had faced challenges from his family. His father, as a high-ranking British royal official of royal blood, who at that time served as the British Minister of Health, strongly opposed Joe's beliefs. But gradually, the family finally accepted him as a Muslim after seeing the changes in Joe, which became much better. At that time, I really didn't want to say that I was a Muslim until I felt sure I could really live that way. But after I explained, they finally accepted it, he said. Even my father always gave me books about Islam, he continued. Joe had the chance to return to Indonesia to meet the Silviani family, who had introduced him to the greatness of Islam in 1995. But unfortunately, the family had moved house a long time ago, and Joe did not know their address. I always wanted the Silviani family to know that their warm hospitality and love of religion were a big factor in me accepting Islam. I returned to Indonesia to meet them and thank them in person, he said. I want to say that they have made my life very different. At that time, their family lived on Jalan Aluminium in Margasinta, Buah Batu, but they moved about 10 years ago, so I don't know where they live now, he added again in a sad tone.